The mid-tier phone market right now is ripe. There are a lot of really good options in that $500 price point, and I thought I'd just make a video that showed, I guess, my 5 top picks of the bunch, as well as talk about my personal favorite of this group. In order to make this list, every phone here is really good. Like there's no particular order when I'm actually talking about the different phones. They're all good, but the ones that have been excluded from this list, I've purposefully excluded. Like a lot of the brands out there, like some of the Huawei phones, in light of recent events, they're not in here. But if they're in here, they're all good. So right off the bat, the Samsung S9 and S9 Plus. This is a phone that has appeared a lot on my channel. It's such an easy phone to recommend. The best things about it are really that it's an all-rounder phone. Everything about this phone is solid, like the speakers, the headphone jack, the camera system, the screen. Like it's just such a good all-rounder phone. It covers all the bases and it does everything really well. The camera isn't like the best thing in the world. I would say that the Pixel cameras are better in my opinion, but it's just a great all-round phone. If there's one thing I would knock on it, it's their software. Not the actual software that it's running. Like some people are gonna love One UI, some people may not. It's more about personal preference. I'm talking about their lack of updates, of software updates. Samsung is a company that makes tons of phones. Tons of people have these phones around the world, but for whatever reason, they're just slow to update their phones. I mean, every year you're gonna get 2, maybe 3 major software updates, which is a lot less than some of the other competitors out there. Also, because this phone is over a year old at this point, whatever lifespan that Samsung had originally planned for supporting this phone, like if they were gonna support it for 2 or 3 years, it's now 1 year less. So this is not gonna be updated forever by Samsung. So that's probably its only disadvantage. Fantastic phone overall, but if you care a lot about frequent and long-term updates, that may not be the best pick. Next up, Pixel 3a XL. This is Google's answer to the whole mid-tier phone market. They did an awesome job on this phone. It's plastic, but it still feels like a relatively premium phone. Like if you didn't tell me this was a polycarbonate shell, I would have believed that it was glass and metal. Like it's just that well made. Weaknesses of this phone are its performance. It's got great camera, great software, but if you really want a fast experience, this thing is noticeably slower compared to other $500 phones out there. It also doesn't have wireless charging if that matters to you, but if you're looking for just a good overall experience, you don't care too much about performance, this is a great pickup. Next up, OnePlus 6T. You can pick up this phone for $550 on their website, which doesn't really fit in the $500 category, but I'm putting it in here anyways. Now, OnePlus as a brand has been traditionally known as like the budget brand. Budget's the wrong word, but like value brand. You get good value for this phone. And over the years, it's held up to that name, but I would say that right now in mid-2019, their brand isn't as price competitive as it used to be. Not that it's a bad phone or anything. I mean, it's a great phone. That's why it's even in this bunch. But in terms of its price point, I don't think it stands out as being like a value brand anymore. It's still one of the nicest looking phones in this bunch, in my opinion. It's got a relatively small notch and the software is clean. It's got dash charging. It does not, however, have a headphone jack. And I think at this price point, headphone jacks are pretty important. Shame it doesn't have it, but that's a OnePlus 6T. Great phone, but just not as clear of a price leader as it used to be. Then we also have our newest addition to this lineup, the Zenfone 6. I really like this phone. I don't want to just oversell it because I feel like it's easy to do when you get something that's new and novel like this. My initial impressions of this phone were that the hinge on the flip camera was questionable, but I've actually tried to bust this thing. Like I've been rough with it, I've been torquing it around. I think this thing will actually hold up quite well to real world use. The advantages of this phone, I would say, are its aesthetic. It's a really nice, clean looking front. I also say the software is quite clean. The flip up camera makes water resistance on a device like this extremely difficult, so I'm not even gonna do a water test on this because just looking at the mechanism makes me feel like this thing would bust immediately if I submerged this. Also the camera. This is something that I feel like Asus has always been not great at. Like their camera software just doesn't process images as nicely to my eye. I hope that they fix this, but that's really its only major flaw to me. Like everything about this phone feels right for $500. Okay, last up, Razer Phone 2. This is a phone that launched for $800, and at that price point, it was a bad recommendation. No one was gonna openly say like, hey, this is a great phone to buy for $800. It is now a $500 phone. It's such a good phone at that price. See, I find it unfortunate when companies do that. When they launch a phone and they price it wrongly. Like when this thing goes out at 800 bucks and the camera software isn't great at launch, it kills the product. Like they just can't recover from that. We've seen this happen with the Essential phone a couple years ago. We now see it happen with the Razer phone, where the phone is good, but because the price tag is so high, the initial reviews are just like, it's not worth the money. And then they can't sell it. Like at this point, for 500 bucks, this is such a good phone. It's not perfect, but I think it can sit with the rest of these comfortably. Its main strength is that 120 hertz screen, super smooth, super fluid. It just looks really nice. I wish it was brighter still, but still a good screen. The biggest weakness, I would say, is the uncertainty of future updates for this phone. Razer as a company had some shifts internally, and there were rumors that they were pulling some of the resource out of mobile hardware development, including software. So it's possible that this phone may not be supported really long term, but they've seemed to held up over the past couple months. I just hope that they keep it up. But, okay, all these are great phones, but if I had to choose one as like the best or my favorite of the 5, if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have gone with the S9 Plus. Really easy phone to recommend, but you've seen this thing a bunch of times on my channel. I like it a lot, but because of the introduction of the Zenfone 6, this is my favorite right now. They've done a fantastic job on this device. I didn't expect it. I think the world did not expect them to make something this good. And if you're interested in a $500 phone, I highly recommend checking this thing out. I will say this. This is kind of a message for Asus, but this is a phone that has finally gotten the attention of a lot of eyeballs. Like they've made phones for a bunch of years, but they've never been like massively popular. This phone I think will be wildly popular. It has a lot of eyeballs in North America, which is something Asus has never really had with their Zenfone lineup. I hope they kind of appreciate that, and I hope they respect that, because this is a great phone, but they gotta keep it updated and they gotta work on the camera software, because as it stands, it could be a lot better. Okay, that's my favorite of the bunch. I think you can't go wrong with any of these, but that wraps up this video. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed it. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. See you guys next time.